Hey, hello and welcome to today's session in the Lighting Academy for Unreal 4. Um, First of all, sorry that it took so long for the next sessions. Uh, we're having quite a busy time at work and you know, life is always busy. So yeah, I didn't really have time to do much, so hopefully I can do a longer session today. So yeah, let's see where this goes. So before we get it started, as always, everything that I'm about to say is just like my experience and my opinion. So you can definitely do these things in a different way, or maybe sometimes I just forget about something and don't say it, so that can also happen. But anyways, let's get it started. So this is the scene that we had from last time. Um, that's kind of what it looks. And now I really want to uh, get this kind of like wrapped up and make sure that everything is the way that I want it to be. So last time we turned on the emissive a little bit on the ice, and I actually want to turn that off again because like this is kind of like a preview for me of like what I would want to have with the ice. But if we look back here, we can see a very big problem. And that problem is basically because of the emissive in the shader, we kind of lose our lighting information because the emissive is not really distributing any light. So what happens is that we have all our geometry back here that is actually very dark because it's shadowed. And then we artificially light up the ice, and it basically doesn't match anymore. So the ice is now way too bright, and we don't really actually have light from that. So I have my shader here, and I just go down to 0 again here. And this also, I think I need to... no, that actually looks fairly okay. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that we can work with all this stuff. But this is actually super bright. Why is this so bright? Yeah. It also seems like I need to rebake some stuff anyways. So yeah. Um so the first thing that I want to do is I'm actually fairly um unhappy with our noise texture here. So I really want to fix that. Um and kind of like get some proper ice textures or whatever going. So what I'm about to do is I'm just gonna import some new texture here. I have a very old texture laying around somewhere because I think I mentioned it in my old video that or in my other video that I prototyped an ice shader quite a while ago. And so what I have is I have an ice texture kind of like this, and I will try to use this one as the noise texture because I think it's just so much better, and it actually looks a lot more like ice. So let's see what we can do with this. Um, I also want to open up my ice rock here. Okay. Man, it would be so nice to have a nice UV for that stuff. But anyways. That's this thing here. Ah, so this already looks more icy. Let's save that. And I also want to bring that into the subsurface color a bit, but not as strong. So if we look at that, I think this just looks a lot more icy. We can also adjust the tiling for that. Yeah, I mean, like, I just want something that is a little bit more representative of ice, that has some cracks in it as well. But of course, you can like really, really um, go nuts with this and do all sorts of crazy stuff here. So, um, what I will do is I will feed this into a lerp node, and I will multiply this with the subsurface color. And the reason why I put the lerp in between is because I want to be able to say how much it actually darkens the subsurface. So I'm basically using the A input now. So if I apply that, I guess I will have quite a lot less subsurface. Exactly. So now we get something like this. And now what I want to do is I want to brighten the black value. I guess I want to brighten it more. I think we can also just hook up another multiply here. Or let's wait. We should actually be able to do this here. It's if we just like raise this, we kind of like stretch out the values more. So this should actually help. So I still want more, or let's say less darkening. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I want even more. Because I think it's just nice to have some variation in here. And I think I will use this without the bump offset. So just gonna feed this one in here, and I'm gonna use the same coordinates. Yeah, I'm not really getting what I like, so before I fiddle around for too long, I will just bypass it again quickly. Because this is the thing that I said. Like, you can fiddle around with this stuff for like hours until you get things that you really like, and it's also like a little bit semi-optimal in general right now, so I don't want to lose too much time on that. So let's save all that stuff out. Okay. So I also just like noticed that show only modified properties. So yeah, that I again forgot to reduce some settings. So sorry for that. So all these bloom sizes, they have been tweaked as well, and you can see this here on the lights, what's happening right now when I change them back to the defaults. This one can stay, this one can stay as well. We got this stuff here and this, so this is all good, but I just wanted to get rid of these bloom settings. Okay. That looks fairly good. So, so now what I really want to do is, I want to go through the lights and start building some lighting scenario here that I really want to use for this stuff. And I actually started noticing something that annoys me a little bit, and I'm not yet entirely sure how we can fix that. Um, to give you some quick explanation, um, I have a red X here, and that red X, it should not be there. At least not if I understood the documentation and the theory behind the technical stuff in Unreal correctly. Because the thing is this, when you have a light like that, and you basically... Why... Okay. If you have a light source like that, and it's set to stationary, then what you have is different shadow algorithms. So I think I need to change this again. Yep. So what you have is, you have basically, we have our light maps, right? That we have UV'd on these objects. And when you have a light source that is set to static, it bakes the light maps and it bakes the shadows as well into those textures, and specularity gets killed completely because the whole light is a baked light. So like even the direct lighting here, it will only be saved into the light maps and into the indirect lighting samples. So we can do visualize volume lighting samples. And now you see that we have these little dots flying around here. So all the lighting information will only be saved into light maps and into these little samples as well. Those are the cheapest lights because they don't have any dynamic runtime component. Also, what's very important to know is that if you have your light set to static, it's way more dependent on your light map resolution, because it's baking the shadows into the light maps in a in a regular way, right? And if we set this to stationary, then we get this mixed thing. So we bake the indirect lighting into the light maps. We bake shadows, but not into regular shadow maps. We bake the shadows into a distance field shadow map. Don't get confused, because it's not the same as distance fields. So it's not like the distance field feature in Unreal that is using volumetric textures to make three-dimensional representations of objects, and then you can do lighting calculations on those distance fields, and it's cheaper to do that on those distance fields than on polygons. So that's not the same thing. It uses similar principles or techniques, but it's not the same thing. And so basically what happens is, in the stationary mode, the direct lighting is dynamic. So that's why we get dynamic specular and all that stuff. But the indirect lighting gets baked into the light map, and the shadows get baked into the distance field shadow map, basically. So, and now comes the interesting thing. This distance field shadow map, it is crisper, but you can't do soft shadows with it. So if you want to have hard shadows, it's better to use the stationary light default shadow baking, because you don't need as much of light map resolution to still get like clean shadows. However, they have no softness. So if you want soft shadows, you need to basically not use these distance field baked shadows, and then you need higher light map resolution and better baking quality to actually get good looking shadows, because otherwise it looks like very noisy and stuff like that. So the way the distance field shadow map actually works is, you have a color texture that has 4 channels, RGB and alpha. And basically the distance field shadow map, like if I have one object, like this rock for example here, this will get one shadow from this light, right? So there will be a 4-channel texture having the shadows for this one object, and the R channel is taken from the shadow of this light. If I would put another light here that also isn't stationary, now this rock is affected by 2 lights. So we will have the R channel and the G channel of the texture that is being filled up. So now if I duplicate this, we're actually having the 3rd channel that is being filled up. The 4th channel is taken by the sunlight, as far as I'm aware of. So one channel is always reserved for the sunlight. So what's happening now is that this rock is not only affected by those 3 lights here, but we have those lights here in the back down here as well. And those lights have a fairly huge radius. So what's happening is this rock is affected by more than 3 lights that cast these distance field shadows. And the red X means, hey, wait a second, I only have 3 channels of my RGB texture to save shadows in. So if you have a 4th light, or in this case, well, yeah, it is the 4th light. If you have a 4th light that you want to bake, I don't have a channel in my texture anymore to save the shadow map. So what's happening is that this light is actually falling back into the movable mode. Okay? So it's not gonna get baked at all. If you get a stationary light with a red X, it's gonna turn into a dynamic light. So my problem now is, I don't want that. Because these lights here, I want them to be baked. And I want them to make some nice bounce lighting here. And now we are actually now we can actually start talking about the issue that I'm experiencing, and I actually need to ask Epic if this is intended behavior or if it's like some sort of fuck up, because let's start over here. So what I did over here is, this is my stationary light. And then I activated use area shadows for stationary light. What you can see here, area shadows get softer the further they are from shadowcasters, but require higher light map resolution to get the same quality where the shadow is sharp. So the thing is this, if you turn this checkbox on, you will actually get shadows that are hard where the object hits the ground, and the further an object is away from the ground, the softer the shadow gets. So that is actually a very realistic behavior. However, the thing is this, if you activate that option, it's not gonna bake a distance field shadow anymore, but it actually bakes the same type of shadow as if this would be a static light. So in my brain, this tells me I can use as many stationary lights as I want on the same object if I have this turned on, because I'm not limited by that channel texture anymore. So this light, as you can see, actually has that feature turned on. And as you can see, this light has a very large radius and is hitting the objects in here as well, which is the reason why we get this X, because this area is being affected by more than 3 stationary lights. However, this light is not really using the stationary shadows, so it should not trigger the red X, because it should just use the normal baked shadows. It's still a stationary light, but my problem is I'm not really sure, like, why is it breaking? And I also don't know if this is just a visual glitch. So this could just be a logic in the engine saying like, hey, I don't look at the shadow types of those lights because like whatever. I just look if it's stationary or not. And since it's stationary, we can go into here, light, and then we can optimization view modes, stationary light overlap. So you can see, okay, so this light here is clearly overlapping, and in the moment it becomes red, it's kind of like invalid. But it could be that it still works for baking. It's just because it's stationary, it just gets like flagged like that. So the thing is, I didn't test this yet, if it's like really working. But to me, it sounds wrong. Like, it should not be like that. My brain tells me if I have 10 stationary lights and they've all turned like the area shadows on, I should not run into the limitation. Anyways, what I want to do is I obviously want to get rid of that X. So if I look at this here, I have the feeling that I have way more bounce here than I have here. And so it actually looks like this light might really be falling back to a dynamic light. So what I want to try now is I just want to go in here and tweak some of these lights in a way that I would like them to be. So first of all, I'm gonna make all these colors more neutral. This one. Okay. Because I think that we should go in with like some neutral light colors and then start doing the other stuff later, like in terms of changing colors and making things look a little bit more nice. So what I will do is I will change these ones to area lights as well, because I don't like these super harsh shadows here. They should not look like that at all. Okay. So now we got this area shadow here. This one is still telling me like, no. But anyways, so we do have tons of other lights in here as well. And all those little lights, I will use them as dynamic lights for now. So let's see what we get out of this. So first of all, I'm gonna go into my light mask settings, and what I will do is I will reduce my quality because baking times start to become a little bit annoying slowly. Um, that's also because of like some crazy light map settings that I'm using here. It's like normally if you would build your light maps clean, you don't need that much resolution. And well, yeah, you get like better results. So I'm gonna reduce that because I actually want to see what happens to this light. Because you can see like now the light is using a dynamic shadow, but since it's so close to the surface, we get these shadow banding artifacts here. So this shows us this is a dynamic shadow right now. But that's the case because I moved the light as well. So we have to consider that. This one here is the baked shadow. So if we would get this thing baked nicely, then we would get a shadow like this. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna try out if this light will bake properly. So let's just save all of that stuff. And the cool thing is like all these other little fill lights here, we're going to use dynamic lights for that. So we can actually start working on this while we're baking. So let's make sure that we bake in preview. And let's build it. I was also trying to hijack my girlfriend's computer to use the swarm baking via network, but for some reason I could not get it to run. So hopefully I have that up working for the next time, and then we can actually bake a lot quicker. Anyways, so let's have a look at that stuff here. What are those lights? Okay, so gray light color is not really that nice. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. So it looks like we're just kind of like faking some lighting from these little emissive lights here. Yeah. All right, cool. We could actually, maybe it doesn't look that bad if we... That's interesting. Why is the light becoming brighter when I turn on shadows? Very interesting. Anyways, so I think it should be less intense. So more something like this. I'm gonna delete them because I also just want to place them a little bit better. Another thing, I actually thought about this. So I think I said that we're probably gonna use lookup tables for color grading in the end for this. I gave it some thought, and I actually think, hey, we should try out the new grading stuff, just for the sake of doing so. I mean, we have it, so we can work with it, and I think it would actually be nice to give it a shot and see what it does. All right. Hello. Why can't I copy lights? Come on, Unreal. Okay. This is a little bit unfortunate now. Okay, so Swarm is still building. Ah, I knew it. Oh man. Well, sorry for that. That is actually the first time in a very, very long time that Unreal crashes on me. It's interesting. Swarm seems to be still baking. I'm not really sure what it's doing. But it's interesting that I can't copy lights around while baking. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. Also, I have one question to you guys, because like the whole doing videos and stuff is fairly new to me. Okay, I saved all that. And I'm having some troubles quite often with the like I record my stuff with the NVIDIA Experience, and I'm normally using After Effects to cut my videos together. You probably have noticed that I don't edit my videos a lot. That is because I really don't have time for that. Recording these and just like stitching them together and exporting all this stuff and uploading, that already takes quite a long time for me, and I'm pretty busy mostly. So that's the reason I don't want to lose time on like editing my videos, because I think like the information is there, and I hope they are not incredibly awful to watch. Um, I was just like thinking about this because I won't edit that crash out to make the video shorter and stuff, because it's just too time consuming for me. However, I ran into a problem, and maybe some of you guys are more experienced than I am. Um, so I'm recording with the NVIDIA Experience, and one of the reasons why I don't really do stuff to my videos as well is because I'm constantly having troubles with when I import my videos to After Effects. Um, like basically what happens is this: I record my video and it's like 1.5 hours, right? And the NVIDIA thingy splits it in like 3 parts. So what I have to do is I have to import those 3 parts into After Effects, to stitch them, and then export them. And basically 80% of the time I do that, one of those 3 parts that I'm trying to import into After Effects throws an error inside After Effects, and it has this weird kind of like timings error. And I saw like a YouTube video suggesting that I change the like basically if it's like 29 point blah 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 frames, I just change it to 30 and then the video works again. I did that, but that made the video only half as long. And I can open all these parts from the NVIDIA Experience in like Media Player, and they work just fine. So I'm basically I start having troubles like getting my videos stitched in the way I like, because After Effects basically doesn't like the videos that I record with the NVIDIA Experience. And I'm like, what is wrong there? Like, why is this not working? Maybe if any one of you has an idea of how I can make this workflow a little bit more solid and less error prone, that would be highly appreciated, because I don't know. I'm not a pro when it comes to doing video stuff. And yeah, I just don't know what is actually wrong there and why it always fucks up with the videos that I recorded with the NVIDIA experience. So if you have any ideas there, that would be super awesome. All right. So I'm just copying that stuff around here. And I'm doing this while I'm not baking, just to make sure, because like we can turn on these other smaller lights later on while baking without any problems. But for now, I just don't want to have it crash again. Like, all this stuff seems to be completely off the grid. I don't know. Like, I can't just, like, yeah, I see it even here that, like, if I just move it along this axis, that it's not gonna work. Okay. Okay. Almost done here. So what we definitely want to do is, like, with the next lights, is we want to add some, like, color accents to this, because we don't want it to be all monochromatic and boring, but we also don't want to turn this into a Christmas tree. All right. So I might turn these down even more, um, but let's just bake first. So that stuff is all set. Cool. That's saved as well. I keep the 100 bounces because that's not really having a effect on my baking times. So what I also don't really know is what's all that stuff here. Okay. So we just have some random lights in here. Oh, by the way, you can also skip the stationary light limitation if you just turn off shadows. Um, so then it also doesn't really have issues. Um, I'm also just noticing, like, 5000 is very, very bright. And we really need to make sure that we don't turn this into a Christmas tree. Okay, so we do have some sort of neon lights here. And here. Okay. So we should never have source radius 0, because that's just not how these lights work. We get, like, a better specula from it. Uh, so this one is a flickering one, so that's a blueprint that I have to tweak. So let's turn it on, and 1.3. Okay. So I also have like the engine hotfix installed, so now we don't have all the problems anymore with the LUTs not getting the correct light maps and stuff like that. I want to hide the fog sheets again here. Alright. Just double checking some values here. Alright. So we do have these green lights down here. I don't like them a lot, to be honest. And I actually think that we should just change their color. Like, I like the idea of having something down here, but I I also think that well, where is what's all in here? All right, but I think that I want a different color scheme for this. And I also definitely want to bake those lights. Ah, okay, now we have some better baking times again, so that's nice. So we can iterate a little bit faster. Ha, and now we're getting... Ha, okay. So, Yeah, so it's not working. It is not working. We got it here, and it absolutely makes no sense at all. So if I go in here and I turn on this, it's still showing me this thing here, which is wrong. So what we need to do now is we need to double check um, where our lights are like coming from. What are they affecting? Okay, so that one's turned off. All right, so now we need to debug a little bit. So if I'll take this one and I just shrink the radius. Yeah, there we go. This is very annoying. Where is the third light coming from? So we can see like one is coming from here, right? And it's doing this, and it's hitting this light here. So what we can do is we can go back with this. And this makes no real sense to me. Or, yeah, no, it's this one. So what I will do is I will probably yeah, I will just do this. So I just reduced the radius of that one a little bit. So now this one is out of the radius. So now they're all going to bake again. And that is exactly what I want. And this one has the large radius again, which is fine. Perfect. So now this has been debugged in a nice way. Also, just to show you, so do you see this shadow here? So now these shadows, they look very bad. And that is because I used the area shadows, and as I mentioned, now they're not using the distance field shadow encoding anymore. So now they're really dependent on the light map resolution. So what I would need to do is I would either need to up the light map resolution on that stuff, or what's also helping is, excuse me, upping the bake quality. So it's basically both of these things that have an impact on that. I mean, we can just quickly have a look at this and try to get rid of the worst offenders here. So we have 256 actually. That's not too bad. What do we have here? 128. So let's look at this. So here you can see, right? I mean, these are our pixels. So we should actually get something that is a little bit better than this, but probably that's the baking quality that is like partly responsible for this as well. So what's up with this thing? Interesting. Anyways, we can't fix everything. So, I mean, what we can do is we can just like up this a bit more. The cool thing is, I believe you see that actually in real time. So if we go in here and apply these changes, and then we go into here. Yep, now it's green, and green is good. So yeah, obviously it would be cool to have that, but I mean, like, this is already fairly dense, light map wise. But yeah, like, this is not really a super good um, usage of the UV space anyways. Uh, so now this is a little bit greener than before. Yeah. Let's try this. I mean, this is the reason why it's so important to properly unwrap your stuff. Alright. Cool. Alright. That should be enough. So what is this actually here? That's also, like, we don't really need them like this, right? Do we have more of these? I think we do. Maybe they also shouldn't be like at 5,000. Maybe something like this. Okay. So I think those ones are just for these numbers here. I would actually do this. Or no, let's do it with this, because I was thinking maybe we could use spotlights, but I actually like us a little bit to have some of the surroundings colored a bit as well. Alright. I think I will actually copy them around a bit. But let's save before we copy anything. I'm not sure if this was really only related to light mask before, so let's just better be safe than sorry. Uh, Alright, cool. It also makes a lot of sense for things like this to kind of make like prefabs. So you can just like reuse that stuff all the time. Or like object blueprints in that sense. Do, 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 do. Okay, so let's go down here again. And what I want to do is I want to grab this one and get the color from it, and now I want to make them all the same down here. So you get shadows, you affect the world, you get this value. I think I'm gonna give you more attenuation, so we get like something more like this here. And I'm gonna turn them into static lights, so they just like get fully baked. Alright. I'm a little bit unsure what to do with these, because I think I'm gonna turn them off again. And what I will do is I will use these. And I will turn them into stationary lights without shadow casting. And we will bake them. Alright, so let's see what we get. So I don't remember if I talked about this the last time, but regarding Subsurface, there's a super big problem in Unreal right now, and that is that Subsurface does not support static lighting. So what that means is you don't get any subsurface effect or interaction from baked light. It just like it just does nothing, which is the reason why a lot of the stuff here looks super boring, and this stuff here it only looks good because we have this light here that has a dynamic component. Because it's a stationary light, the direct lighting is dynamic, and that dynamic lighting actually triggers the subsurface effect. What we did was we kind of like faked this a bit with the emissive, but again, then we run into these issues of getting tons of mismatches here and so on. So what I want to do is I actually want to place dynamic lights here that will just trigger the subsurface effect. So we're gonna fake some lighting interaction here while trying to get the subsurface to run. There's one thing that I'm struggling with right now as well, and I started noticing this with 4.15. There is something super weird with reflections. So let me see if I can illustrate that somehow. I noticed that on a private project, but I'm noticing some things here as well. Like for example here, you can see this yellow specula here. Like, where the hell does that come from? And if I go into my reflections view mode, you can see that the reflections look totally different here. And it's not really having much of that stuff. So if I go back to this, and if I go into lighting features and I turn off screen space reflections, you can see that it's still here, the yellow, right? However, if I go into the reflections mode, there is no yellow. It looks completely different. It doesn't really match up anymore. And I'm having even weirder issues on my other map where like the stuff from the reflection capture, it shows good in the reflection view mode, but in the map I just have like dots and like artifacts in it. And Yeah, like where does I mean, I have the sunlight turned off, so it makes no sense. Or maybe it does. Okay. Anyways, there is something weird with the reflections sometimes, and I don't really know what's like going on there. Um, and it seems to be mostly the cube maps that are kind of like doing some weird stuff. So this kind of works. And so yeah, this is like I just noticed a couple of things since I upgraded to 4.15, and I still have to figure out if everything is like working as intended or if there's really quite a few issues here. So now this seems to be some outdated reflection data. Ooh, yellow smoke. Well, uh, yeah. So I also want to tone down some of the effects a bit here. Uh, so I got my opacity value here. So we can still change that later on, but I don't like it if it's just too foggy all the time. What happened to my parallax effect? What happened to my parallax material effect? Oh, I know what happened. I killed it completely because of the detail brightness. Oh, come on. Is it crashing again? Or is it importing light mass? Ah, thank you. do 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 do. Well, anyways. Okay, so now we have this baked here. So now we can have a look at this. So one thing that I notice is it is super bright here now. And that is for multiple reasons. Of course, we have quite some bright lights in here. But we also now have those ones turned on again. They don't generate any bounds, but again, they just make stuff feel quite bright. So we want to tone them down. All right. So actually just super subtle now. I also want to tweak some of the emissive stuff here. But is that the correct one? Doesn't look like it. Okay, now that's this one. I don't know which one that actually is, because I think this is a little bit like off-putting here that all that stuff is so bright. No. No. I'm just like clicking through some values here, trying to find out where some things are coming from. And I don't know. So, emissive green. Why is it not doing a single thing here? I'm just like fooling around with some emissive values on my other screen, sorry. Because I'm trying to figure out where that stuff actually comes from. But it really makes no sense to me. Because like, I'm opening these shaders and like none of them has use emissive turned on. And I used those ones here and I just toned down the emissive, but like nothing happened on these small parts. So I'm kind of like, where does that stuff come from? That makes no sense to me. Absolutely not. Let's see if the highlighting still works. No. Are you like trying to tell me it's this stuff? Section 2. Okay. Ah, finally. Alright, section 2. Okay, maybe something like this. Submissive, no. No. I still want to know where that stuff is. That drives me. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I need to allow translucent selection. So. Halo text. Let's just tweak that stuff a tiny little bit. Okay. So that's this one. And now this one. So I'm just like trying to find some color schemes that I like a bit better. Okay. All right. So, so what we can try out now is we can try to get some of our subsurface here to behave a bit better. It's so interesting sometimes where that stuff comes from. So, for example, what we can try is let's just do this. Let's take a spotlight like this. And we make it movable. We leave the shadows turned on. And now we're gonna move it up here. Kind of like this. And we rotate it a bit to our liking. So now what we will try to do is trigger some subsurface here. Okay. And I will tweak that shader again, and I will clean up that stuff. Okay. Kill this one. Whoops. So now we're actually starting to see some stuff from the subsurface, right? So kind of like this. So what we can do is we can just continue doing that stuff. So we can just take ourselves a light source like this. And then let's move it back here. Whoa, no, not that far back. So kind of like here, I think. Alright, so now what we want is we want this light to be really intense to trigger the subsurface. So first of all, let's make it intense, then increase the radius. Alright. So we already get a little bit of subsurface, you can see that here, right? So, but this is not enough. Here, can you see how that stuff is adding the subsurface? So what we will do now is we will dephysicalize the light. So per default we have this use inverse square fall off. So that's a more physically accurate fall off for the light source itself. So what we can do is we can turn that off, and then we use the old fall off, and then these values, they go completely nuts. So basically what that means is if we turn that off, we can have lights with the intensity of like 2 or 3, and that's almost the same intensity as this 5000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce my intensity to 1 now. I will turn off the inverse square fall off, and now I start doing these crazy things here. So and I'm obviously going to turn this into a movable light. So let's see what we can do here to nicely sculpt this. We can also turn off the shadows, so we get something like this. And so now what we can do is, like, as you can see, we start sculpting our own subsurface behavior here on that thing for our eyes. And we can do all sorts of things here with this light in here now. Alright. I think it's always cool to just like, you know, fool around and try out things. So you can see I'm just like moving this around in the back here. So maybe we wanna go in here and turn off cast shadows as well. And so we can do something like this. So we can kind of like get this stuff here. And now maybe we just turn on a tiny little bit of emissive. Just a tiny little bit. So already we're getting something a lot more spectacular here. All right. So, and I'm also not really too happy with the brightness over here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to brighten this stuff up a bit here. So just like this will gonna be like fill lights. And whoop. Cool. So one thing I will make those lights a tiny little bit darker. So I'm gonna use 1000 instead. Okay. I just want a little bit of red contrast here. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Something more like this. Alright, so I thought there was this light here as well. Which did kind of like this. It's very similar to what I have back there. Okay. Alright. And I need to turn this into a static one. Alright. Looking good so far. Let's do another bake. And I think then we can actually do some like minor grading stuff here. So yeah, I really like that outdoors there. So we need to bring back a couple of things as well. So I think we turned off our fog, which looks pretty damn crazy like this. So first of all, I just want to move my fog uh, back a little bit here. Mostly because we need to move it down as well. I mostly want to have it here because then I can have my view aligned like this, and I can kind of like check it better how I like the fogging. So let's go back to our default settings for now. Okay. So this is the normal fog color exactly, and then we have this one, which does nothing right now because we don't actually have the sun activated. So the directional inscattering is actually the, well, the fog color that you get when you look into the sun. You also can apply like texture to that now. So we can actually do quite a lot of stuff here with the fog. As you can see, got some pretty crazy tweaks here. Also, what's important to know is like when you darken the fog, it's basically more or less like reducing it. So I think I actually like something like this. No. I think I like this actually quite a lot. I think this might actually be a bit too bright here. Well, I need to see. But so what we will do is we will crank back in some contrast then with like some color grading. So we will have we will get a little bit more crunch back in with this. So don't worry, it's not gonna stay as undefined as it is right now. So I'm just cranking up the emissive a little bit on this one, just so we get a bit more here. I'm thinking if we want to have a little bit warmer light color here, because I think that might actually be nice. So what we will do is we will use temperature, and we'll go down a bit to, I guess, 4000 Kelvin, and we can also just go in here and tweak the emissive material so they kind of like match up better. Yeah. Cool. So this is basically my last test bake. I want to see how some of my values hold up, and I will probably pause the video and do like a full production bake on this, and when that's done, we just gonna wrap the scene up. And yeah, I think then we're basically done with this environment. All right. So this stuff here is really, it's very, very bright. We got back quite some definition from the fog as well. I want to glow these parts a bit, like I really want this to kind of glow out more. So as you can see here now, if I do the fog color like this, all of that stuff back here is like pretty dark and undefined. So why? Oh no, it lost my nice color. Okay, so we need to, yeah, kind of do something like this, I guess. Or we have this slight fogginess in here. Yeah, I think this works better. And we can also just drag the fog up a bit. And we can do this maybe. Alright. So interesting. Like sometimes I get the feeling that there is really not a lot of bounce lighting happening here. And I slightly wonder why that is. Like for example, I would expect a lot more bounce to happen here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna increase the indirect lighting intensity on those lights a bit. Alright. And what's also a bit weird is like here I got this nice orange stuff, but I don't really see it. Like, now it's all gone. Why is it all gone? It's a little bit sad. Also, okay, well, so I will tweak these things quickly. I will do another quick test bake because I don't want to do a full production bake that takes like ages and then I'm like still not happy with those lights here. So we will tweak this more. Like so. So first of all, I'm gonna boost the brightness and I'm gonna turn them more into a color like this. And same goes for you. Okay. And you are also gonna get a boost for indirect lighting intensity. Perfect. Okay. I would really, really love these to be metallic. But I guess that's something that we can do later on. How does this thing look here? Okay. So I just made a clone of that material. And let's see what we can do here. Okay. Also use UV color maps is turned off. Okay. Cool. Let's do it like this then. We just make a duplicate of that thing as well. So I'm just duplicating the master material now. And what I'm going to do is here I'm gonna choose the new parent, which you can see the name metallic. So now I updated that so I have a copy of my instance, and I also have a new master material where I can like overwrite that stuff here. So nope. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to unhook this thing because it's not doing anything right now. And I'm gonna add my own parameter. Whoops. Okay. So now this thing is like black metal. So our base color is very, very dark, and our metallic is 1. So what we need to do is we need to go in here, I think. Haha. So there's many values, I guess, that we need to somehow tweak here. Huh. I think the rest comes from this color texture. Okay, so this is actually not that bad. So I think here is like some weirdness because of the decal. So interesting, interesting. Okay. So I think this is like what I mean right now. It's like you can see how I have this reflection here. And when I go out of the reflection view mode, do you see that it's like it doesn't really feel like it's really using that reflection information? It's super weird. Like this is exactly what I have on my other map as well. It's like it looks good in the reflection view mode, but when you apply stuff to your scene, it actually looks not like the stuff you would expect to see. So yeah, I need to dig into that and make a nice mirror material or something like that so you can really see what's going on. Alright, so I think this is a lot better here. Yep. We also got this. Nice. So you can see here, I'm trying to kill some wrong reflections. So something that I actually like to do quite a bit is to just like place some more reflection capture actors to kind of like override some of these rather wrong looking reflections that you sometimes get. Like this. So yeah, you can see like these reflection captures, they are like really important to make stuff work the way it's intended to. It's still super weird that this thing here just like looks black instead of like really nicely metallic. Um, that's a little bit annoying. But yeah, like overall, I think we're in a very, very decent state here. So if we look at this, I think that most of the stuff now works. So yeah, I think this is fairly decent here. Got some like light map lot stuff here. All right, cool. So yeah, let's crank up our settings, our settings again. Save all. Do 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 do. All right, so we had indirect lighting quality 4, 0.75. This is all good. Okay. Oh, I forgot that we still have these ones here as well. So I think we might wanna brighten them up like darken them, I mean, sorry. Something like this, I would say. Alright. And I think I want another one. Zoop. So I just want one that is like more in here. Whoops. Whoa. Alright. I don't want to eat away too much though from the nice subsurface stuff we're like getting here. I think I want to do like something like this. And we might want to have one like very much like in here, kind of, to like fill that corner a bit. And then we just want to decrease it. Cool. All right. Sweet. So, yeah, we're gonna do the big baking now. So, fingers crossed. All right. And I know I can't stop. I can never stop. It's like, okay, so now we're gonna do this, and I was like, oh man, I could add like something here and then something there and then like la la la, and then it's like 2 hours later, and I'm still not done baking because I'm so not concentrated and I get sidetracked by cool stuff all the time. So, well, I was just like thinking of, like doing something like this to give it some additional flavor, to fake some more of the bounce lighting and to get some more interactions going with some of that stuff here. So, nope, not like this, more like this. So I'm kind of like just adding some like, well, fake bounce. So you can see here, I think this looks a lot nicer when you get some more gradients in here. I mean, it would actually be kind of cool to have it like this. So now you can see that also the smoke is like getting some of that color here. So I think I'm gonna use that, but I will just decrease this more. So like 800 maybe. Yeah. And what we can also do is we can increase that roughness value here again. So it just becomes this kind of like diffuse light. And we kill off some of the reflection, because we do get reflection, but we don't really want specular from that light here. We just kind of like want some bounce color. On the other side though, here I'm keeping it because yeah, I do get the speck highlight here, and that's not like perfect. But if we do this, it's like I kind of like these highlights I'm getting here, the little sparkles from it. So, you know, let's just do it. It's cool. We love specular reflections, right? So yeah, I think this is already quite a lot cooler. Sweet. So again, let's save it. And let's be super brave and start the production bake with those crazy settings here. All right, so yeah, I am kicking off this bake, and well, see you in a bit.